Well, porn stars, let's yarn about John Fury. The gift that keeps on giving to social media is back to his old self. Randomly headbutting anybody half his size and coming off second best. Like most alcoholics do when they visit a country that decapitates people for getting on the piss. I wonder how many days the not-so-secret weapon Big John Fury has went without a drink in Arabia. Helping prepare his son, the Gypsy King Tyson Fury, for the upcoming undisputed blue this weekend with Usyk. This is an example of what happens when these gypsies have to lay off the good stuff. Big John probably gets to stack the fridge and stoke the ice pipe on the weekends, and now he's forced to go days without his nectar, and all the stressing of supervising Tyson Fury's training camp leads to these sort of outbursts. Big John is just a man after all, who can blame him? Let's blame the Saudis for making Big John go clean. Maybe they can make a new law up for Big John. Let's get him on it. Quadruple turkey does whatever he wants after all. When gypsies and violent types smell weakness, they psych up right away and go in for the kill. Mentally and physically when possible. Tyson Fury smelt that weakness in Deontay Wilder, for example. Total mental domination and disintegration when Tyson finally worked out he was the superior man to Deontay. When they both didn't know who the better man was, it was an even dust up the first Wilder and Fury fight. As Fury got fitter after his mental breakdown, and that 12th round where Fury rose from the dead versus Wilder in their first fight, Fury took the mental edge before Wilder versus Fury 2, and the fight was over before it started. Gypsies and violent types do this in basic situations in everyday life also. I class Tyson as one of the more smarter gypsies, but whether it's a gypsy in a world title fight or an alcoholic picking on a smaller guy, the pattern of behaviour is all the same. The Fury camp seems to be unable to get under the skin of the Usyk camp, and the frustration comes out in these outbursts. These gypsies are good at what they know, and that's fighting. You have a situation where you have a gold medal Olympic standard world-class fighter versus the best from the streets, with all the knowledge gained from getting the job done any way he can. Does Tyson Fury have that dirty game that just might upset Usyk? Or is Usyk's boxing textbook approach going to be Fury's kryptonite? All our questions will be answered this weekend. For the first time in 25 years, we will have one king, thank fuck. Australia's first ever boxing heavyweight world champion Lucas Browne has officially hung up the gloves, and what a beautiful thing that is. He retires with his marbles. I was getting concerned that he was getting knocked out and beaten up too much in his last few fights. Now Lucas becomes one of the greats in Australian sports, and hopefully in the years to come we can appreciate his commentaries and himself for what he is. Australia's first ever boxing heavyweight world champion. In a world where prospects such as Nikita Tszyu and Paul Gallen are doing pay-per-views and making big coins so early on in their fighting career, a former world champ like Lucas Browne is heavily underrated and underpaid and underappreciated. Hopefully in retirement Lucas can attain that legend status in Australian sports that is rightfully his. Best known for his shock loss to Paul Gallen, Lucas Browne's market value was partially stolen. That loss to Gallen served Australian boxing well and No Limit's pockets well. As Gallen serviced Australian boxing the last few years, Lucas Browne was left behind a little bit. Could you blame Paul Gallen for not wanting the rematch with Lucas Browne? Imagine Big Daddy coming at you with ambition. Bugger that shit. If I was Paul Gallen, I would take my win and run for the hills also. Kambosos does it again, robbing us in the bank and leaving the Spartan mentality in the dressing sheds. When Kambosos feels like he's been outclassed, he is quite willing to sit back and let the 12 rounds pass with minimal damage, rather than going out on his shield like Spartans are best known for. Kambosos just doesn't have that Spartan mentality. It's none of my business until it's my money. Then I expect you to at least have a go, which Kambosos does not. That fight between Lomachenko and Kambosos deserved a knockout finish, as it gives some value to the pay-per-view buyer, as we had to endure 11 rounds of being bored as buggery. Now Kambosos is rich, he can bugger off and teach some other wogs how to luckily get rich, like they seem to be able to do. I can't see Kambosos putting back and fighting prospects in tomato cans for bugger all. Retirement might be calling. In a cunt act, The promoter of George Kambosos, Lou DiBella, actually stood with Lomachenko in the ring before the fight. It's obvious this was a means to an end for George Kambosos' Loma fight. This was the script the whole time for George to be killed off at this stage of proceedings. Is this the last fight on George's contract with Lou DiBella? Is the rematch with Fimo Lopez at 140 pounds for Fimo's world title on? Or the Liam Wilson fight at 135 pounds could be on the card for Kambosos, as Liam Wilson is moving up in weight after he copped a flogging in his last world title blue at 130 pounds. I reckon George becomes a punching bag, and I don't see George moving up in weight to fight Fimo, as George will be a midget at 140 pounds. At least Kambosos afterwards took the loss to Lomachenko like a man. Andrew Moloney did not take his loss like a man. In a world title fight where you are not the champ, you just can't come in injured and jab your way to a slender victory whilst protecting injuries. Under these circumstances, Andrew Moloney expected the promoters to throw his opponent under the bus and bless him with a world title. We get accurate scorecards and Andrew Moloney shits the bed and retires. It's un-Australian at the least. We don't care what happened in his career. We just want to see a blue. Andrew Moloney's efforts in the ring was a blueprint for how the Kambosos fight went. It was another story about a man who did not want to have a go. Like Andrew's twin brother Jason Moloney in Tokyo in the middle of the week. Jason actually owned a world title, and he just went to Tokyo to hand it over without a fuss. Another $60 down the drain for me in pay-per-view fees. I'm broke this week thanks to Kambosos and Moloney. They robbed me blind. Watching Kambosos and the Moloney twins fight is like watching two chooks having a cockfight. Just like on the farm. There is nothing of them. They have as much power as a rooster trying to peck ya. These lighter weight divisions sometimes look like two chooks trying to have a blue when the fighters lack knockout power. That's why it was sad that the Lucas Browne fight was a dark match on the Loma Kambosos card, because the promoters didn't want the heavyweight stealing the show from the main event. Instead of putting the Lucas Browne retirement fight on the televised card, Top Rank thought they would put Loma promos on, because it was more important than Australia's first ever heavyweight world champ's retirement fight. Considering the card was going down in Lucas Browne's hometown of Perth, the only fight I would actually pay for. The fight was put on untelevised in a dark match. Thanks Top Rank and DiBella Entertainment. Real entertaining shit.